We'll call the meeting to order and ask Commissioner Jaggers to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and invocation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, Lord, we're so thankful that you allowed us to get up this day, to this beautiful day, Lord. We just ask that you would continue to be with us, have your presence in our lives, Lord. We just ask that you would guide us, direct us in doing the business of the county, that we would make decisions that benefits the whole county, Lord. Again, thank you, Lord, for all you do for us. We ask things in your name. Amen.
And if everybody would please remain standing for the Harnett County Heroes Remembrance.
Good morning, Commissioners. This being Veterans Day week, we will recognize a true hero today, and I will recognize Jose J. Anzaldúa Jr. I will be reading 3 citations this morning. At the end of the 3 citations, then we will present a certificate. Jose J. Anzaldúa, Corporal, presented the Navy and Marine Corps Medal. Corporal Jose Jesus Anzaldúa Jr. distinguished himself by heroism, serving in the 2nd Battalion, 5th Marines, 1st Marine Division in the Republic of Vietnam. On the night of 7 December 1969, Corporal Anzaldúa was at his battalion's command post near Quang Nam Province when he observed a helicopter crash near battalion landing site. Reacting instantly, he ran to the burning aircraft and began assisting the shocked and injured passengers to safety. Upon being informed that the pilot, the crew chief, was missing, he disregarded the explosions from the burning ammunition inside the aircraft and fearlessly entered the flaming wreckage through the rear section. Finding the crew chief pinned under several pieces of heavy debris, and although painfully burned himself, Corporal Anzaldúa, with the assistance of 2 other Marines, freed the injured man and moved him to an area where he was trapped under fallen equipment. He re-entered the blazing helicopter and freed a Vietnamese civilian who was trapped under the falling equipment. Corporal Anzaldúa's bold and courageous actions in the face of great personal danger were instrumental in saving the lives of at least 2 men and were in keeping with the highest traditions of military service and reflect great credit upon himself, the Marine Corps, and the United States Naval Service. Bronze Star with Combat V, Jose J. Anzaldúa, Staff Sergeant, for meritorious service while interned as a prisoner of war in Southeast Asia from January 7th to November of 71, through his strong leadership qualities among enlisted prisoners and his efforts in camp communications. Staff Sergeant Anzaldúa displayed courage and determination in maintaining camp organization and resistance. Directly through his efforts, many of the prisoners remained steadfast in their observance of the code of conduct. Staff Sergeant Anzaldúa's knowledge of the Vietnamese language was a valuable resource of intelligence to his senior officers in the camp. By his superb performance under harsh conditions of imprisonment, Staff Sergeant Anzaldúa reflected great credit upon himself, the Marine Corps, and the United States Naval Service. Jose J. Anzaldúa, 1st Lieutenant, Bronze Star with Combat V's 2nd Award, for meritorious service while interned as a prisoner of war in Southeast Asia from November 71 to March of 1973. 1st Lieutenant Anzaldúa displayed extraordinary leadership and devotion to his companions. Using his knowledge of the Vietnamese language, he was diligent, resourceful, and invaluable as a collector of intelligence information for the senior officer interned in the prison camp. In addition, while performing as an interpreter for the United States prisoners, making known their needs to their captors, 1st Lieutenant Anzaldúa, regularly at grave risk of severe retaliation to himself, delivered and received messages for the senior officer. On one occasion, when detected, he refused to implicate any of his fellow prisoners, even though severe punitive action was expected. By his superb performance, under harsh conditions of imprisonment. First Lieutenant Ansel Dua upheld the highest traditions of the Marine Corps, United States Naval Service. In addition, he has received the Prisoner of War Medal for being a prisoner of war in Southeast Asia from January 23, 1970, until his release on March 27, 1973. In addition, he also received 4 Purple Hearts. And it's a certificate of recognition presented by the county. The certificate is proudly presented to Jose Ansel Dua on November 12th, 2025. Your name and citation that appear on the Harnett County Wall of Heroes and will remain so forever as part of the history of Harnett County is being duly recognized for your act of heroism while serving in the United States Armed Forces. We as a county come together to commend you for your actions and dedication to our great nation. Signed, Brent Trout, Harnett County Manager, Matthew Nickel, Chairman, Harnett County Board of Commissioners. Who's going to take some pictures?
Wow, just wow. Thank you very much, sir. All right, at this time, I will consider any additions or deletions to the published agenda.
Motion to approve agenda is presented.
A motion and a second to approve the published agenda. Is there any discussion on that? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Published agenda carries. All right, we'll have an update on landscape sales for the 26 reappraisal. Ms. Christine Wallace, good morning. Man, I'm a little tongue twisted after that.
Good morning. Is this where we needed to be last time we were shifted over just a little? There we go. So good morning. I'm here today in response to the board's request concerning an update for land sales within the county. The previous report focused on examples of residential sales, residential market transactions, and today's presentation will reflect vacant land sales as well as 2 recent commercial sales. So we have continued to see evidence that market sales across the county have changed in varying ways since 2022, and some areas have had notable changes while others have kind of held a more stable rate in comparison. So the examples presented today do not represent estimated tax values for 26, but rather actual market sales between individual property owners. For the purpose of this presentation, I have excluded all transactions involving builders, developers, LLCs, or corporations. So this would primarily be between 2 individuals from A to B. As we go through these, I have one example for each township, and if you have any questions about those, I've got some notes I can share, but that is sort of limited. So the first one is in Anderson Creek, which was for 5.9 acres. In 2022, it was assessed at $44,690. It sold in February of 2025 for $125,000, which was a market increase of 95% and $21,000 per acre. Averysboro Township, it had this is an 18.93 acre parcel of land. And the first example was also on a paved road. This too is on a paved road. It had a market value of $190,810. It sold in December of 24 for $293,000, which was a market increase of 42% and over $15,000 per acre. In Barbecue Township, we had 9.4 acres on a private access that was valued at $62,510 and sold in August of '24 for $103,000 at a 48% increase, and that was $10,957 per acre. In Black River, we had a parcel that was 5.21 acres on a paved road that was assessed at $116,000, and it sold in October of 2025 for $313,000 with a 91% market increase at over $60,000 per acre. Buckhorn Township, we had 24.89 acres on a private access that was valued at $225,550. In 2022, it sold in March of '24 for $315,000 with a 33% increase and over $12,000 per acre. Duke Township, we had 4.96 acres. This parcel was assessed in 2022 for $46,670 and sold in October of 2024 for $155,000 at a 107% increase, and that is $31,000 per acre. In Grove Township, we had 11.59 acres that was valued at $124,10 and sold in February of 2025 for $270,000 per as a sale at 77% market increase at $23,000 per acre. This too was on a paved road. In Hector's Creek, we had 5.76 acres that was valued at $130,030 in 2022 and sold in July of '24 for $265,000. That's a 68% increase and over $46,000 per acre, also on a paved road. In Johnsonville, we had 10.2 acres that was assessed at $39,270, and it sold in March of '25 for $185,000. This also had a private access. It showed a market increase of 129% at over $18,000 per acre. In Lillington, this parcel is 44.7 acres. It is a unique parcel in the sense that it is bordered by two private accesses. It also runs along a creek, has some topography issues, and is subject to a gas line, a power line, and a telephone line easement. So there's about 5 restrictions on this property as far as the easements go. And even still, it sold for $175,000 in April of '24 at a 41% increase at $3,800 per acre. In Neels Creek Township, we have 17.73 acres on the corner of 2 paved roads, and it was assessed at $217,490 and sold in March of '24 for $310,000 at a 35% increase, and that was over $18,529 per acre. In Stewart's Creek, we have 10.34 acres on a paved road that was assessed at $50,170, and in July of '25, it sold for $90,000 at a 57% increase, and that's over $8,700 per acre. And the last township example is Upper Little River. It's 47.88 acres, and it was assessed at $239,320. It sold in February of '24 for $479, and it had a 67% increase at $10,000 per acre. The commercial example I have here is from the Johnsonville Township on a paved road on NC 27. Is 6.77 acres and was valued at $102,100 in 2022. In March of '25, it sold for $235,000 with a market increase of 79%, and that's $34,700 per acre. And the last commercial property I have is 1.81 acres on 401 North that was valued at $63,230. In April, it sold for $150,000 with an 81% increase at over $82,000 per acre. And that is for commercial. Are there any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Tell me your reason. Well, you can only tell me what you think. Why is the value of land increasing so much in Harlan County?
Well, We're one of the fastest growing counties in the state. We continue to be, and we still see the influx from Wake County. I think Coley's got several examples in his presentation of people that are moving to North Carolina, to Harnett County from out of state, across the country, and we're just a desirable place to be.
Sounds good.
I understand you say none of these are development tracks. These are all private treaty tracks.
Yes, sir. Individual to individual.
Well, the only thing I can say is, I'm glad we're moving in the right direction, because we gotta have something here to rooftops.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you.
Right, Carolina Cross 100 Affordable Housing Update. Mr. Coley Price, good morning, sir.
Mr. Chairman, Board of Commissioners, hope everybody's doing well. So we are here to talk a little bit about our state, our home, and an 18-month initiative that was sponsored by the North Carolina School of Government, UNC Chapel Hill, that Barry, Sarah, and I have been a part of since last December. So we're giving you kind of a little over a halfway point about where we're at on affordable housing. I know Commissioner McCoy and the rest of the board had spoke hard about this when we did our comprehensive plan. I applaud your vision as far as the comprehensive plan, but as far as the code, standards, and ordinances of our county moving forward. You just heard Christine talk a lot about the growth. I'm going to show some facts and figures about where everybody's coming from and how desirable we are as far as the Raleigh-Durham metro area, with Harnett being a part of that. So this came about from a local realtor that I think contacted Sarah, and I appreciate that because this is perfect timing as far as where we're at with affordable housing and putting together a toolkit, of which we talked about in our comprehensive land use plan. So Sarah spent a lot of time, energy, and effort with this application, very comprehensive application, and we got accepted to this. So if we can move forward, I will. Okay, so there's your timeline as far as kind of where we're at that you can see. We started back in December of '24. There's 5 forums that we actually go to Chapel Hill and stay 2 days for class time. This is really cool because this is across the state of North Carolina from Murphy to Manteo, and I'll show you a map in just a minute of how these are put together. In between those 5 forums, we have homework assignments that we have to do, and we meet collaboratively through Teams and Zoom with different organizations to put stuff together for Harnett County. Technical assistance and expert peer support and valuable data and resources and funding opportunities are brought to us through these in-person workshops that we do, just immeasurable as far as who we've met, the relationships we form, and what we're doing as far as when we go to Chapel Hill to meet. You'll see that's kind of what I just talked about. So there's your map. So that's who is in this, and that's who got accepted to this 18-month initiative. We are partnered with the Sand Hills Affordable Housing Collective. It's what we're called Team 10, which is in green, and that includes Harnett County, Sampson County, Cumberland County, and the city of Fayetteville, along with Mid-Carolina Council of Government, who is in our team. But that doesn't just mean we stay within that team, so it's a collaborative. So when we meet, we break out into different sessions, and we go across every 14 teams you see in here, and so we listen to where they're at. Every town is different, every county is different as far as what they're experiencing with growth and affordable housing. So this has really been a very good initiative for us to be a part of. There's our team as far as what I just mentioned, who the members are, and how we're moving forward with that. Anything I want to share on that particular one? Okay. All right, so our purpose. So when we say affordable housing, there's a lot of stigma behind that. And I know Commissioner McCoy, man, you've talked about this a lot of stigma. This particular initiative is put together a lot like what Reaching Rural was, as far as what we do with putting a plan together and having a purpose. So to create a community where everyone has access to safe, high-quality housing, near essential services, educational resources, and employment opportunities. We envision a future where the well-being and upward mobility of the residents is promoted by the region's unwavering commitment to the supportive programs and policies for affordable housing. So when we say the word affordable housing, what does that mean? You know, you hear the stigma all the time. There's affordable, attainable, there's workforce, there's Section 8, there's tax credits. Barry and Sarah's going to get in that in just a minute and kind of explain that. But our whole goal here is to come up with a toolkit to combine back with our comprehensive land use plan so we can have that clearly defined. We have asset inventory in here that we can show you where we're at with the county. This is the halfway point, so we're going to come at the end of this initiative and give you a final presentation and then hear from the commissioners about how you'd like to move forward, and we have some examples of that. So as Christine had mentioned, this kind of blows my mind as far as what's happened in the last 8 or 10 years. So I want you to look at these facts and figures. This particular one shows the Harnett County median sale price is at $339,000. That's in 2025. These sources are mostly realtors, as Commissioner Nichols is familiar with. This one came from Redfin. So you'll kind of see that as far as kind of where we're at and what we were up against. And then you turn around and you look at the rent. I knew rent was getting high, but I didn't know this was the medium rent as far as kind of where we're at and what's going on. So that's the main reason we're focusing back in on this as far as workforce housing, attainable and affordable. So back in 2017, the average starter home was between $130,000 and $140,000. And we're going to show you some figures on that of how it's come about in full circle as far as everybody moving to this particular area. I'm going to have Sarah talk a little bit about our housing reality.
Right. Well, good morning, commissioners. So what I would like to talk about with this slide is what does it mean to, when we talk about affordable housing, and what does it mean to be cost burden? So cost burden is defined as any household that has to pay more than 30% of their income towards their housing. So if you're paying more than 30%, then it is said that your housing is not affordable. So in Harnett County, that number is about 27%. We have about 27% of households here in Harnett County that are cost burdened. And when you take a look at kind of how does that break down between the renters and the homeowners, you have it's overwhelmingly that burden is on the renters. In our county, it's about 42% of renters versus about 21% of households who own their home. And then you can take a look at the graph there to see where does that sort of compare in to the rest of the state of North Carolina. And when you look there, you can see that for our home ownership, it's just slightly above the North Carolina average. And for our renters, that burden is felt a little bit less. But then when you take a look at your average annual salaries and what does it take, what type of salary does it take to be able to afford fair market rent? That income number would be about $41,000 a year. And as you can see, a teacher may be able to afford fair market rent here in Harnett County. However, a child care worker and a firefighter would not be able to. They would be severely cost burdened.
If I may.
Yeah, sure.
I'm sitting here thinking about this from years ago. I pick on the deputies a little bit because I'm most familiar with that, but we had deputies making $12,000 a year who couldn't afford a $50,000 house. Now we have deputies making $50,000 a year and can't afford a $350,000 house. Now, that spread has grown based on the numbers you're telling us here.
It has. Yes.
And the question is how do we look after our people? Because you want to stay somewhere, correct me if I'm wrong, Matt, you want to stay somewhere to where when you buy a house that you're not over 36% of your gross income or over 28% after monthly recurring expenses, and whichever one of those numbers is lower is where your monthly payment needs to be.
That's correct.
And I'm seeing the problem getting worse instead of better. I'm thinking about our employees.
Actually, I hate to say this, but you are correct. And we're going to show some facts and figures about kind of what you just said. And then I've got hopefully some answers to that. And I need the board's direction at the far end about where you'd like to go. But I appreciate those comments, and you are right on point.
Okay, so next we'll take a look and see where North Carolina's housing challenges stand statewide. So for the entire population of North Carolina, it's estimated that about 30% of our residents or households are struggling to afford their homes, and they're cost burdened. And when you take a look at low and moderate income households, meaning between about 60 and 80% of the the area median income, we're talking nearly 85%. So this is a statewide problem.
So to answer some of your question, Commissioner Morris, and Commissioner McCoy, you mentioned this, so our growing state. So the next three slides are kind of interesting. So most counties grew due to net in-migration as far as what was happening with people moving here. There were a few counties that were stagnant and below, but most of them did. And you see that on the map as far as the color shade. Harnett County grew by 11.6% between 2014 and 2023. The overall North Carolina grew by 9.5% between the same time period. So you see that we're above that average. This shows our county population growth. This map was done a little while ago, and I think it's kind of right on point. Projections are projections. I understand that, but Brent, where are we at right now? About 148. It's 148,000 as far as the population of the county. So you can see the projected growth periods through 2038 is what you're seeing on the map here. These next two slides are very interesting. Kind of answers a little bit of the questions that you had earlier. You see New York, Florida, Virginia, South Carolina, North Carolina. You see the median household income and then the average sale price. That's the point I was talking about earlier. This is in 2019, so you can see what was happening to your point, Commissioner Morris. As I mentioned earlier, there's starter homes in 2017, and Matt, you probably remember this. They were about 130 to 140. And so now, all of a sudden, you are correct. They're popping anywhere from 290 to 350 as a starter home. The average age for a person buying a first-time house right now is 38 years of age. So that kind of blew my mind a little bit. And you say, well, what's going on with that? Well, heck, who can afford a $300,000 house, with kind of where we're at right now with the income and what's happening with our economy? So that kind of tells the tale a little bit. And then this next map, Commissioner McCoy, kind of answers a lot of questions. It's twofold. So look at that map. All right, one thing to point out here is where everybody is coming from across the United States to North Carolina. This map is 2013 to 2017, so it's 8 to 10 years old right now. So you saw that wave starting to happen 10 years ago. Then all of a sudden in 2020, the whole world went crazy. COVID happened, and then all of a sudden the migration of everybody in the Northeast and Florida and California started migrating to North Carolina. And you ask why? Well, number one, we have four climates. We had four climates this week. It was 80 degrees Sunday. We almost got snow Tuesday. But anyway, it's a desirable place as far as most of it is kids, grandkids. It's job creation. It's the universities. It's the mountains. It's the coast. It's the four climate season that we have. And they found us as far as what's happening. And you see the migration here. I thought this map was very interesting because every state in the nation has at least one dot that is moving to North Carolina, which I thought was, keep in mind, this map is 8 to 10 years old. So if I was to give you, I'm trying to get you a current one. This came from the UNC School of Government Demographics Department. That's why it's so crucial that the three of us are in this initiative, gathering all this information to bring back to the board and our citizens about what the vision of this board has as far as attainable, affordable, and workforce housing. I hear you loud and clear. And Commissioner Morris, it's a challenge. I mean, there's opportunities here. I get that, but growth, it's tough.
It's hard to compete with John Doe, who's lived in Manhattan all his life, and he sold his 1,200 square foot brownstone that he inherited.
That's right.
For $1.5 million, and he comes
right.
down here and thinks $300,000 is a great deal for 1,800 square foot house.
That is correct.
And that's part of it.
Yep.
Good or bad, whether those many folks moving in is a good thing or a bad thing, but that's part of the equation.
That's a good point. And to Christine's point, she's been coming up here in the last couple of months and showing you the schedule of values. I mean, she just didn't create this. This is happening real time. So the comps, as far as what's happening with land sales, house sales, and then new development coming in, it is what it is. So that's what I'm trying to explain as far as what's happening in this particular area. You're in a very desirable area location-wise. as far as being a metro, the Raleigh-Durham, Fayetteville. You're sandwiched in between Fort Bragg and RTP. That is world renowned. So people understand that and they see that.
Well, our tax environment is a lot better than other places in the
That-
nation.
That's why people are flocking here. You are exactly right.
This is a dream for me. It's just, I was just 14, 18, that's when I started talking to you all about.
You did? You-
But we have things that are all against us. But now I see a future for us, simply because I see the economic development
Yeah.
changing in this
Yeah,
county.
you're right.
For many years, when I got elected, jobs that was going out of this county was 6 to 8%.
That's correct.
The gap is closing a little bit now because we're concentrating on economic development.
That's right. That's right. And that,
But we got some things that are in our favor. And people, citizens from other states and all see this. They see it. Jobs from the north are tracking here.
that's right.
Jobs from the west is tracking here. So we beginning to move the scale just a little bit.
That's right.
And all of this helps us because my heart has always been in affordable housing and jobs here in this county.
Yep.
That's been the whole thing that I based myself for running to make this county different. And I see now you were the only ones and the guys that were the young lady behind me understood what I was talking about when I talked about affordable housing.
Yeah.
Affordable housing. Because right now, if we don't do something here in this county, the gap is getting farther and further and further apart from us. Who can afford to pay for a house 50 years? For 50 years. If it hadn't been for government programs, I've been in my house so long I can't even remember the year I bought the house. And then plus I added more on to the house. But that availability that was there for me. Now it's getting, that gap is getting wider.
It
And we
is.
gotta do something else.
I totally agree. I appreciate those comments, and you are correct. When you got on this board a little over 10 years ago, now all the residential's coming in, which follows by retail, follows by commercial, follows by industrial. And the one thing I applaud this board for, through Brent's vision, as far as the plans that were put together, vision plans, master plans, strategic plans, all capital plans. The county is in really good shape as far as kind of where we're at. It's just the direction now, what we attract. What you attract is what you become. And that's why the balance is so crucial as far as kind of where we're at.
Let me ask you a quick question, Dick. And all these homes that are being built, the $300,000 home, is there any way of getting stats on like how many of them are sitting there not being sold and then getting bought by companies? We don't need a bunch of vacant houses bought by companies sitting there. So I didn't know how do you have any idea about that?
Is that something that y'all track, Christine or Sarah?
Coley, the last time I checked, average days on market had fell back to about 30 days. Are you seeing that?
It's actually bumped up, at least down.
But to his
In that
point,
area,
what he's talking about, a lot of the hedge fund managers come in with these national tract builders, and this is sight unseen. So when you see sold signs on vacant lots, that's just hedge fund managers taking those lots. So if they don't sell them, they rent them. So I hear what,
I think that is part of the problem of having affordable housing is that the corporate people are buying land
Yes,
up and then
yes.
they don't have to sell them.
that's correct. That's correct.
I would say that, that's one factor. There's so many factors.
Yeah, you
at
know it
play
more than anybody, yeah.
that we had talked, you hit the nail on the head with, the tax benefits that we have down here.
Sure.
As far as, paying less taxes and people that have their $1 million homes and are able to pay cash down here, and those are setting the comps that are setting the precedents. But we've also had an unprecedented last 4 years of real estate in the entire country.
That's true.
So,
That is
this
true.
is something that we've never seen before.
You're right,
COVID
Matt.
sparked
Yep.
so much, and I want to say that it kind of put us in a bind because people were paying overinflated prices,
Yep.
which drove up those comps, and then interest rates went up.
You're right.
That's why we're having days on the market, Sid, because we just had this conversation this morning. People are waiting for those interest rates to drop again. So homes are sitting there. Homes are sitting
that's
there.
true.
And then what's going to happen is we're going to start slowly, incentives are going to be offered by builders, prices are going to drop, and that's going to start setting the comps for a little bit
you
more
are
of a
correct.
downward turn.
You are correct.
Well, what keeps me awake at night with all of this is just what Matt's saying. Things take a little downturn. Then you've got John Doe out here who's $100,000 upside down. He walks off and leaves it. Okay. Then we end up with a different environment in a subdivision, and it brings the rest of the comps
That's
down. And
correct. That's correct.
we went through this in the 70s. You may not be old enough to remember that, but under President Carter's administration, we saw
Right.
some of the same things.
Right.
And it worries me.
Well, to Commissioner Nichols' comments, he's right. When the interest rates go up a quarter, half, or even a whole, that's $400 to $700, on a monthly mortgage. So that can make or break something going on. That's true. I mean, really good points of what you're bringing up. That's why it's so crucial that we're in this initiative right now, gathering all this information. So we're going to come back to y'all, and we're going to come up with a game plan. It's not a silver bullet, but we're going to have a plan.
And you got to
But we
remember,
gotta move now.
Yeah, I totally
Because
agree.
it's gonna get worse.
I totally agree. You hadn't seen nothing yet. I'll just be honest with you.
you got to remember too, every time you grow a house, you're losing an agribusiness job.
That's true.
And I'll be honest with you, with the kind of numbers that we're seeing on raw land sales, commodity prices are not going to support that.
No, it's not.
Farming is going to take a hit, and it's going to decline and continue to decline, and all of that. And that's still the biggest factor in the economy in this state.
That's correct. That's
And
correct.
I don't know what the answer to it is.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to take this home. These are great comments, questions. So we'll take it home, and then I'll tell you kind of how we're going to sum it up.
So as Coley has mentioned, this is not an issue that is only affecting Harnett County or statewide, or as just Commissioner Nichols mentioned as well. This is something that is sort of unprecedented. It's happening at a national level. The median age of first-time home buyers, I know Coley mentioned, is 38. Another important fact behind that is that's the highest that it's been since this data was first collected in 1981. So first-time home buyers also hit an all-time low in 2023. And then you can take a look at the median price of a home in our nation, which is $415,000, that monthly mortgage. It's about $2,100. And then you have a median household income of $78. And just, again, to compare, the Harnett median household income is about $65. And I believe that all those numbers together really tell the story of what's going on here and why it's so difficult for these first-time home buyers to penetrate into the market.
Good point. If you just want to
Again, so this is just the same data, but with just an example of household budget by annual income. So we stated that we have a median household income nationally of about $78,000 a year. So if you take an annual income of $80,000 a year, that's a 2-adult and 2-children household, and then you go through and you can break down the cost. You could estimate that it's $1,000 a month for food, that it's $950 a month for childcare, which I could just attest that's pretty low for 2 children. Transportation, healthcare, every other necessity that you have built into this math problem, and then you at the end of the month have a little more than $1,100 to direct towards your housing costs, and that's if you make 80. That you're in a deficit if you were at $50,000 using the same estimates.
Okay, go ahead.
Let me just start out by saying, as you all are talking and as we're talking, this is a very complicated subject. Everything affects housing, whether it's affordable. So this program is really good because it gives us perspectives from all over the state and how people were success. We listen to success stories in towns, cities. Cities are much better leveraged than we are as a county, just because there are certain things that they can do that we can't do.
Time has proven if you kill the building industry, you kill the rest of the economy along with it. The question is to keep the building industry going and keep everything else afloat as well.
Right.
That's
Is
right.
what I see coming out of this.
There's a balance, and y'all have done a really good job of visioning that, what I mentioned, the plans that you have in place. But what you have to look at is step back and look at the inventory of what we're creating. So it may pay that at some point we take a bus and we go around this county and let's look at some of these subdivisions. Let's see if this is something that y'all want to see. I spent a lot of my time in Cary, Apex, Holly Springs, and Fuquay watching that wave of growth. Well, it's upon us right now.
We have done that
Okay?
in the 2016, 15.
Okay. Was that helpful?
Years back. It
Was
was very helpful.
Okay.
But you need to see what's in this county.
Sure. Sure. Good point.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point. So I read an article last night, an opinion piece, specifically on housing, and it was an opinion of a builder, a national builder, who said if you take all that cost that local government does on top of the housing, he quoted $40,000 cost. But anyway, the point was he's going to save $40,000. But I was sitting there looking at it, thinking $415,200, $40,000 really is a spit in the bucket. And that was just his opinion. But it was interesting to read that that builders would blame local government for it. So one thing I want to talk a little bit on.
Nice. On the next one.
You already on the next one?
I'm sorry.
Back it up. Really, all I want to talk about, Sarah's already said it, that 30% of your income, if you're over that, then you're burdened. But if you're 50% over, and we have people in Harney County that are 50% over, then you're it's called severely burdened. And that's defined by HUD and from the North Carolina Housing Finance Agency. And I'll talk a little bit about them, but just think about that severely being everything you got to go in the housing. And I got to throw this out just because I've been doing community development, which is all we've been doing is repairing homes since 2008 here in the county. And I promise you, every house that we try to fix is bad, is really bad, and people just barely living in these homes. So we see it on the ground. We don't have enough money. There's not enough funds available from the state or from the federal government to put back into these programs. These programs have been shut off for a long time now. So, but anyway, the point I'm saying is that when you see over 50% burden, you can really see it.
Good point. We'll just summarize these next three.
I hate to keep interrupting,
No,
but
you're fine.
that presents another question for me. Used to, the banks wouldn't lend over 35%.
True.
So they've compounded this project by letting somebody get in that deep, is what you're telling me. Is that what you're saying, is that the banks are lending up to the point to where you're up to 50% of your net income making your house payment?
Right. Then you're severely burdened according to the just language used by Housing Finance and HUD.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm good. All good question. I'm sorry for taking so much time. This is very
I just want
important.
to make sure I was understanding what you were saying.
No, you're exactly right. We talked a little bit about this. We're going to clearly define when it says affordable. I think that needs to be in the toolkit. The restricted by income, has talked about that. Is there anything you and Sarah want to share about that one? I think you kind of covered that as far as the 30%, 50% to Commissioner Morris's point. And then the public housing and the vouchers. Why don't you talk briefly about that?
Okay, so public housing, they're not building much anymore. In the statement it says not being built today, but it's considered building because sometimes some of these housing authorities with public housing sometimes revitalizes their area. And they consider that like a yes, no. It's not really building new public housing, but it's changing how they're doing it. You hear the stories like in Fayetteville and Durham, how much trouble they have with their public housing, and they revitalize it. So there is like HUD funds to use for that, but essentially there's no new housing being built, for example. So the board put me on the East Carolina Housing Regional Authority, which has got one place here in Anger, which is yeah. I always forget the name. They don't use the name ever. But the point is, the region has 8 different public housings. They're very small, and they have a lot of money, but HUD won't let them build a new one. So So that's the point on public housing. The other piece, the housing choice voucher, it used to be called Section 8. That's run out of Sanford's Housing Authority. They only open applications once a year in April. They don't really advertise it. You got to hit and miss. We try to tell people to apply for it. In 2023, which is the last time I got information from the Housing Authority, there was 208 Harnett County families served using Section 8 or housing choice. And that created that they put in $100,000, $478 a monthly in rent for this 208 families. And then in the same time frame, 2023, over 100 people applied. So what I'm saying, it's not really advertised as much. They do share money in Harnett County, but you got to know when to seek it, because their open application only lasts 20 days.
Let me ask you, is your money in Harnett County? How many Section 8 housing stations do we have in Harnett County?
You know, that's
I don't know what too.
that's a very good question. Did we take that slide out with the asset inventory where you could click on?
No, that's still here. I believe it's in about 2 more.
Okay, I think I've got an answer to that whole title now, okay? I just like this slide. I'm gonna let Sarah do this one.
If I may, the gentle lady asked how many Section 8 houses we have in Harnett
Section 8
County.
housing sections we have in this county. I don't know but two. Might be more than two. I don't know.
I was just curious. I'm thinking about the individual house in various communities that are being paid for by Section 8. How many of those do we have?
We can get you that answer.
Just typically,
Yeah.
We can get it from Sanford Housing
Yeah.
Authority.
Yep.
Their problem is, honestly, they've had a turnover in their leadership, several key positions, so it's hard to get.
typically nationwide, however much high-density, low-income housing you have an equal amount of Section 8 in the adjoining community. And that's just a number that's been static for as long as I can remember nationwide.
Yeah.
I'm just curious as to what Harnett County
That's a
looks
great
like.
question. We'll get you the answer to
That's a
that question.
question we need to know.
I totally agree.
Commissioners need to know, because I get calls
Totally agree. We'll get you,
asking that same question.
we'll get you that answer.
Okay. So when we're saying what do we mean by affordable housing? And just to kind of piggyback off of Barry, one of the things is there's so many different definitions. There's a spectrum where you have government-led affordable housing. You have public, nonprofit, private, sort of all overlapping together, and you have private market. So this could extend from, extreme ends of the spectrum where you have emergency shelters to market rentals and home ownership as well. And so it's when the market rentals and the home ownership aren't meeting the need for your community for affordable housing, and your community becomes cost burden. It's typically where you see the government led or the public, nonprofit, private all come together.
So, I want you to pay close attention to this arrows right here, because this is kind of where you come in as a board. This is kind of where we're at. One of our workshops that we were in is the strategic approach to affordable housing. You see the arrows. You've got preservation, you've got ongoing affordability, housing production, and wealth building. And then you see what's happening in the red there as far as what's happening with the homeowners and affordable renters in the different units. That's where we're at right now in this initiative. I want y'all to look hard at this particular cross and figure out the vision of what y'all were thinking and feeling, and we're going to combine that when we put a draft toolkit together that we'll present in our final presentation. So I'll make some copies of these slides so you can have this, but I want you to pay close attention to that, because I really want to hear y'all's insight about the next steps. And that leads us to, which is really cool, Lee County is actually in our group as well as far as this initiative, so we have a chance to talk with them as well as Cumberland, Fayetteville, and folks across the state. But we already have toolkits at our disposal. Chatham County, our neighbor, has a really good one. Western Piedmont Housing Growth Toolkit that I have right here is probably one of the models of the state of North Carolina, and they're actually in our initiative. So we're taking a lot of that, and I know every county's different. I get that. You are exactly right, Commissioner McCoy, and that's true. And I know we have to look after Harnett. That's why we're gathering the facts and the data for Harnett County and listening to your vision about moving forward. But at least we have this at our disposal. So what are our next steps? Our next steps will be direction from the Board of Commissioners. We'll come back before you in the early spring. We'll give a final report of this initiative. We'll share with you some of our thoughts, feelings, ideas, and we'll summarize the whole initiative for you. Continue to foster partnerships with counties across the state through what we're in through Carolina Across 100. Implementation of affordable housing plan and toolkit is what I just mentioned as far as what we have access to, and then establish connections with the community partners. So that's kind of a four-prong approach. I know this has been a little lengthy, but I thought it was very important to share this because I know it's been on your mind as far as where we're at with the growth of what we're experiencing in our county. I appreciate your time this morning, and I can't say enough. It's been a pleasure to work with Barry and Sarah in this initiative, and it's really good timing as far as Harnett County, as far as being a part of this. Glad to answer any questions or comments that y'all may have.
I have commented. For many years I've been talking about this. And I appreciate the time and the energy that the community have invested in this. You're gonna be the ones to make the decision how we go forward with this. Because we cannot continue to sit here and see rent for a single wide trailer costing over $2,000 a month. You can afford that. So I want to say I appreciate that. I appreciate where this board and Brent is going. Because this is something I've been talking about for years.
Yeah.
And it's finally coming to fruition.
Yeah.
So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for those comments. And I appreciate y'all's vision and giving us the time and the energy and the patience because we're gathering a lot of good information for this county and for you to make great decisions. But you've laid the groundwork, so now it's time to put the toolkit in place. So that's our next step.
Questions?
Done a great job.
Yeah, I want to go ahead and echo kind of the same sentiments that Commissioner McCoy did. You know, we appreciate the time and energy you guys are putting in this, but you got to realize that the real estate market is not something that you can change or grab hold of. I mean, it's cyclic, and kind of where we're at.
That's true.
With things going on, we haven't really seen before, and we're kind of trying to adjust to that.
Right.
I know that every realtor out here is dealing with the same thing.
Right.
Kind of put things in a basic perspective. You know, a $300,000 home right now in the county with the interest rates that we have is roughly $2,000 a month, about $1,900, $2,000 a month.
Okay.
So if you're a homeowner and you have that, and I'll say in 2010, 11, I remember homeowners coming to the table with $30,000 checks just to sell their house. And that was after what we had to deal with in 07, 08 with the lending fraud or whatever you want to call it that put us in that position. But so if you have a $1,900, $2,000 a month mortgage as a homeowner, you got to rent that out for that at least, you know, and that's where they always say it's cheaper to buy than it is to rent. So I think we're kind of in that position, and it's very unfortunate. I couldn't imagine having to pay a $2,000 a month mortgage, especially if you've got being single or if you have kids, because it only goes up from there if you need more bedrooms. But
that's a good point, Commissioner Nickel, because I hadn't thought of it that way, but you're right. When the starter homes get over 300, the supply and demand of the rent is going to catch up with that. So we remember rents at $300 and $400 and $500 and thought that was a lot. So it jumped to $1,000 overnight, and now you're looking at an average of $1,800. But you're right, it's balancing out with exactly what we're experiencing because the last 5 years has just been unprecedented. We've never seen anything like this with the amount of growth that we're experiencing right now.
I'm sorry.
And my apologies. And then it compounds also when we're talking about property valuations and tax reassessments, because guess what? That's another $200, $300, $400 a month.
Right.
It's better to be tacked on that mortgage payment.
That's correct.
Insurance that raises as well.
That's right. Well, and another thing with Christine's report of what she's been doing the last few months, don't shoot the messenger as far as the commissioners too. You're seeing the data, and Matt, when something sells, that's a comp. So, I mean, you're in this every day. So the tax bills will be coming out in the spring, and unfortunately, it is what it is as far as the evaluations, as far as kind of where we're at. We're going to try to do everything we can do to make it affordable, to give the services, and to grow this county the way it needs to grow.
And they're gonna shoot us.
But this is great information. I appreciate the public being here and listening and understanding. I listen to a lot of their concerns and ideas, and so it's just really good because everything here is transparent, from finances to our plans to everything. So
I want to add one more thing, Toby. In doing all of this and putting it all together, we got to think about the feds are proposing that the terms for people to pay for houses 50 years.
Yeah.
So whatever we do, we got to start working on it now to make it more affordable.
Right.
And going into 50 years, who can pay for the house? Take 50 years to pay for a house.
You're going to pay for it 4 times. Yeah. Exactly. And I will get you the answers to what you said. And I've got an asset inventory that I'll share with y'all, and we'll get you that information. I've actually got a map that I can pull up, and on every dot in Harnett County, it shows affordable housing, how many units, what the cost is, and what you're dealing with. So I'll get you that. I appreciate y'all's time this morning.
I wanted to thank you, because this information is great to bring it to the surface. The things that I said, one, we're not going to change the real estate market, but we've got to change the way we react. And there's a couple of things. One thing that Matt brought up, if you see interest rates drop, days on market is going to go back from days on market to hours on market, because we went a year when we were like that, when the houses would stay on the market 3 and 4 hours.
Matt remembers that in 2022, it was sight unseen. It was no inspection. It was cash offers. It was $100,000 more than what it's worth. So, yeah, I mean, we're just in that sweet spot as far as across the country.
The next problem is if something would happen, the economy takes a dive.
That's true, too.
Our tax revenues that Christine collects are going to fall off.
Yep.
And then we got to deal with that at budget time.
Yep.
And it's like I said, it keeps me awake at night.
Well, that's why we've been so smart financially as far as where we're at with fund balance, what we're doing with all the growth, the schools. It's a fine line. It's a fine challenge.
It's
as far as
certainly
what we're
not
up to.
time to overextend yourself.
No, sir, it's not. It's not. So I'm sorry, I'll hush. I have a passion about this, but I thank you for allowing us to be in this initiative, and we'll be back in touch with you.
All right.
All right.
We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, discuss a request to consider and approve contract negotiations for construction manager at risk for the Harnett County Animal Adoption Center. Mr. Barry Blevins, you're up again, and
I'll go ahead and do that if you want me to, Barry, since I'm standing up here. I think you brought your muzzle. Right? I probably need one. So another long time coming. Thank you for your support of this. As you're well aware, we hired the architect that you approved last month. Mosley Architects will be designing this building. So now what goes hand in glove with that is construction manager at risk. We were very pleased. We had 12 RFQs with very high qualified firms, which was very strong for a CMAR application. So we put together a team of 9 departments throughout the county, and we spent a lot of time on this as far as looking at these applications, which I know these firms spend a lot of time, energy, and effort and money as well. So we shortlisted it to 4 firms, and we had in-person interviews. We allowed them to do like a 30-minute presentation, and then we had specific pinpoint questions that we had for each firm. We shortlisted that to 4. What kind of rose to the top was Edifice LLC out of Charlotte. They had a great interview, the knowledge, experience, the reference checks, the animal structure as far as what they did. So we would like to recommend that you choose Edifice LLC out of Charlotte to be our CMAR for our Animal Adoption Center.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
pleasure of the board to go ahead and add this to the consent agenda for next week for approval.
That's fine.
We'll go ahead and add this to the consent agenda next week.
Thank you, Board. I appreciate your
Gents.
support.
Okay, discuss a request to add a Tech One painter position to the Facilities Maintenance Department. Mr. Kenneth Snipes, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. I'm here this morning to
asked a request for adding a Tech 1 painter position to our department. This position would mainly be at the sheriff's office. With this being said, the building's over 16 years old, and we're having a lot of more maintenance issues that are coming up. So we would like to keep this person basically at the sheriff's office from 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, to help with some of these tasks. We're wanting to start maybe January 1st of 26 for this position, and we can use lab salaries and contingency money to pay for this salary, this position. So,
Just a permanent painter over there all the time.
pretty much, sir. Yes, sir. And Aaron, if you want to relay anything about the issues that we're having.
You got a lot.
So
of
I brought the
artists in
major with me,
jail.
so he's seeing kind of what we're seeing. So,
Good morning. This is going to be mainly for the detention center. The detention center, you could start painting cells and never get done. You have people that are in the detention center with pencils and ink and things like that, which is also one of the things that the people that come and look at the
jail inspector.
jail inspectors, that is one thing that they can gig you on is graffiti, which if you have somebody in a cell for 23 hours a day or whatever it may be, that's going to happen. So unfortunately, with the amount of cells that we have there, it's constant. And I imagine that one of the questions you may have, and I can go ahead and answer, is inmate help is no longer an option. It sounds good in theory, even if someone says that they are a painter by trade. They cost, what they painted over, they did some damage to some sprinkler heads, and I think it cost us about $26,000.
Yeah, we had $26,000 in parts, and we had another $18,000 in labor. But we did all the labor in-house. My staff did that, so we subtracted $18,000 off of the initial estimate.
And also on top of that, it requires someone to be there with them. So you're taking staff, detention officers, away from what's already kind of slim to paint or to oversee a potentially bad paint job. So.
You do have some talented artists there. I've seen some.
Very
of the murals.
talented. I take
Yeah.
pictures all the time right before we paint over it.
Right. Any other questions or comments? Pleasure of the board.
He's got the money consent.
Go ahead and add this to consent agenda as well.
Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
Discuss a request to accept Parks and Rec Trust Fund grant. Mr. Carl Davis, good morning, sir.
Good morning. So happy to be here this morning instead of asking you guys for money to actually let you to ask for acceptance to be awarded some funding from Parks and Recreation Trust Fund. And also the next item on the agenda is the Land and Water Conservation Fund is another grant that we've been awarded. This is for the Neals Creek Park Phase 1 project. You guys have seen this over the last 18 months with the master plan coming in. This first phase is just a picnic shelter, playground, parking lot, restroom, walking trails, and a new access off of Highway 210. Once again, this Parks Recreation Trust Fund grant is for $500,000. The Land and Water Conservation Fund is also for another $500,000. The county will put in another $739,000 on top of that. So we basically awarded $1 million. County's putting in a little over $700,000. So for this project, every 70 cents we spend, we get a dollar in grant funding. Grant funding for Parks Recreation Trust Fund comes from the state. Land and Water Conservation Fund comes from federal money.
All right. You're saying that's gonna match it, huh?
Yes, ma'am. We're matching it with the $739,000 for the.
139.
Yes, ma'am.
No, it's already budgeted.
Already booked.
It's already budgeted.
It's already budgeted.
Mm-hmm.
Can I say something to you, Colin? I'm always on your show.
That's right.
But I want to say thank you. You have made that shelter facility out there and a little park for the kids, not for the adults, but for these kids in this county. And all kind of kids. All ethnicity, black, white, everybody. Those kids, it is a joy to go out there and see those kids enjoy that facility. enjoy the park. So thank you for what you've done.
You're very welcome.
Questions or comments? Pleasure of the board for both of these items. Consent agenda. Both these requests. We'll go ahead and add this to consent agenda for approval. Thank you very much, sir. All right, Development Services briefing. Miss Arbor, you are up again.
Right. Good morning again, and thank you, commissioners. It's a pleasure to be here before you all again this morning. So we have 3 rezoning cases that we will be bringing before you all at the November 17th regular meeting. Our first case is Plan 2509-0001. This is a requested rezoning by applicant Mr. Greg Bagley from the RA20R Residential Agricultural Zoning District to the Commercial Zoning District. So the subject property is approximately 6.2 acres. It's located at the intersection of NC 210 South and Shawtown Road in the Lillington Township. Currently, the site is a vacant parcel. It does feature 3 street frontages. One, of course, is along NC 210, and the other 2 are along Shawtown Road. So the site is situated adjacent to a recent satellite annexation of the town of Lillington, which lies approximately 1 mile outside of the town's incorporated limits. Surrounding land uses consist of primarily agricultural land uses. There are a few established residential developments located to the west. I just wanted to provide a little bit of background about this area. So this section of NC 210 South corridor is changing in character. It's kind of due to the spread of Lillington. They have their satellite annexation located there, and they continue to kind of come further south in NC 210. And that is a property located immediately to the north and was rezoned light industrial in the town. Next, we'll take a look at the available services. There's public water available to the property. Sewer services are not available to the site unless they were to annex into the town of Lillington. That would most likely be required in order to access the sewer line that's located there on 210. Next, we'll discuss some of the transportation features of the property. So this section of NC 210 does see about 10,500 daily trips, and this Shawtown Road is considerably less, with about 850 daily trips. The site distances for the property are good if you are looking north on NC 210 towards the town of Lillington. However, if you're familiar with this intersection, if you were looking south towards Fayetteville, there is a pretty big hill there, and the site distances are pretty poor at the intersection of Shawtown Road and NC 210 South. Next, we'll take a look at the zoning district compatibility map. So here on the map, you can see that parcel located just directly to the north, which is light industrial in the town of Lillington. But otherwise, the property is pretty well surrounded by RA20M. That does mean that with this rezoning request, and we'll speak about this more in our evaluation, that we do have to do an evaluation for the reasonableness for a small scale rezoning. Next, we'll take a look at our land use classification compatibility map. Thank you. So here, as you can see on this map, the current land use designation is medium density residential. So if this rezoning case is to be approved in order to go to the commercial zoning district, because it is not compatible with the underlying land use, it will need to be voted on separately to also amend the land use to make it compatible. So that's required. So that would be automatic. And then what will happen then is just a single motion to approve both if this rezoning were to be approved by the board. Site has also provided several photos here for your viewing. Right, and follow with an evaluation. So as staff was evaluating this rezoning request, going through all our criteria, we were able to answer everything in the affirmative, except for our last question, which is about compatibility with the underlying land use designation. So no, it's not compatible with medium density residential. What we are suggesting, what would be most compatible, it would be a land use amendment to the commercial mixed use featured land use designation. And while it is not necessarily compatible with the underlying land use, it does support several strategies that were outlined in our comprehensive land use plan. One of which is to encourage investment on potential commercial corridors that will serve as gateways into the county. Major gateways include NC 210. Another strategy that it supports is encouraging rural businesses while limiting impacts on existing uses. It will allow for the rezoning here would potentially allow for a variety of small scale businesses in rural areas, which is another strategy that we outlined in our land use plan. So at our planning board hearing, the planning board did vote to approve both or to recommend approval of, the rezoning as well as the land use amendment to commercial mixed uses. And we did not have anybody who attended the meeting to speak in opposition. And I'm open for any questions. Thank you.
Questions or comments?
I don't know what to say because the town of Littleton is growing so fast. And what you're asking us to do is to rezone that area for commercial. Is that not right?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
Well, I guess
That
commercial
parcel.
is as good as houses. We'll get the houses on top of houses. I don't know.
Okay.
We're going to go ahead and put this on the agenda for next week for a public hearing.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving along, our next case is Plan 2509-0002. Harnett County Development Services is the applicant for this rezoning case. It's a requested rezoning from the commercial zoning district to the RA20R residential and agricultural zoning district. So I'm going to start this case off with a little bit of background. If you all remember or recall, about, I believe it was September 2024, we brought a rezoning case on old NC 87. It was a case Mr. Branson had come into our office and wanted to pull a permit to put a second home on his property. Then we found out he found out he was owned commercial. So at that time, several of his neighbors came in. They came into our planning board meeting as well as here at our commissioners meeting, and they spoke, and we received direction here from the board to go ahead and initiate a rezoning for them along old NC 87. So there's every property here that's outlined in blue that you can see on the screen is zone commercial. So they all expressed interest in changing their zoning. So what we have done is we've reached out to each one of these property owners. We sent letters at first. Anybody we couldn't get a hold of by letter, we actually went door to door to make sure that we could make contact with everybody, and anybody who wanted to have their property rezoned to residential had that opportunity.
Each one of
Yes,
these
sir.
tracts contain a residence.
Yes, sir.
But this was miszoned when we went into county zone.
So yes, sir. So that's a great question as well. This was zoned back in the year 2000. That's when zoning came into this township, and when it was zoned, it's most likely zoned commercial because of its proximity to NC 27 and NC 87 just being located there at the junction is my assumption. Obviously, it's a little bit before my time here at the county, but.
Pleasure the board go ahead and add this for next week for a public hearing as well. We'll go ahead and add this to the consent, or no, we'll go ahead and add this to the
Public
agenda
hearing.
for a public hearing.
I said consent agenda myself.
Okay, perfect.
One more.
Yes, I do still have one more. Okay. So our next case is Plan 2510-0001. And the applicant is 4C Development LLC. And they are requesting a rezoning from the RA20M zoning district to the commercial zoning district. The parcel is approximately 5.32 acres, and that is located at the corner of Ray Road and McKay Drive in the Anderson Creek Township. So the site is currently a vacant and wooded parcel. It's approximately 5.32 acres in area. The surrounding land use consists of single-family residential homes. There's a manufactured home park located just to the east, as well as various commercial uses along Ray Road. Just a little bit of background about the site. This site was did previously consist of about 6 parcels, which varied in size. They were all recombined in September in order to meet the minimum lot size requirement so that they would be eligible to move forward with a rezoning request to the commercial zoning district. So I just wanted to make the board aware of that. Services available to the site do include water and sewer. Site distances along Ray Road and McKay Drive are both described as good. Take a look at our zoning district compatibility map here. You can see the west side of Ray Road is all zoned commercial. There's also an adjacent property to the south of this property that is zoned commercial as well. So it's compatible with our surrounding zoning. This property is also located within our military corridor overlay district, which the significance of that is we take these cases when we receive them, the applications, we send that to RULAC. So they provide a review for Fort Bragg to make sure that the request is going to be compatible with their operations, with their noise, with their low-flying aircraft. And what we received back from them was that commercial development here in this area is more compatible generally than residential. So we sort of have their recommendation on that. Next, I'll take a look at our land use classification compatibility. Again, we have a property where the underlying land use does not match up with what our rezoning request is. So we're going to be looking at the same process for this one. We're going to, and as a matter of fact, it'll actually be the same underlying land use that that staff is recommending. So it would be a vote on rezoning to commercial, yes or no, and then if yes, then also amending that underlying land use to commercial services. Staff has also provided several photos for your review here. I'll give you a moment to look at those. Okay, and then through staff's evaluation, we were able to go through and to answer everything in the affirmative, except for our last question again, just about the future land use. No, it's not compatible with underlying future land use. However, it is compatible with strategy 4C. Again, encouraging investment on potential commercial corridors that will serve as gateways into the county. And we think absolutely this aligns with that strategy in our land use plan. Otherwise, it's compatible with surrounding land uses, and it's located at an intersection with a stoplight, and it has other infrastructure available. So staff is recommending approval. Our planning board did recommend approval and of both the rezoning as well as the land use amendment. And we did not have anybody who attended the meeting to speak in opposition. Thank you very much.
Questions or comments?
Going from residential to commercial, absolutely.
We'll go ahead and add this next week for a public hearing as well.
Thank you.
Much. Hey, discuss for approval the conversion of 2 part-time positions to 1 full-time library assistant position. Ms. Kimberly Van Beck, good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm here today to respectfully request approval to convert 2 29-hour part-time library assistants to 1 full-time library assistant role. The library currently has no full-time library assistant roles, so establishing a full-time role would provide greater stability to the department and consistency. The full-time position would ensure also reliable coverage for critical evening and closing shifts at the main branch. These areas have been challenging challenging for us to staff due to frequent part-time turnover. And then both part-time roles are currently vacant. In your packet, you would find a cost breakdown that illustrates that this conversion could be achieved without added expense to the county. This has been reviewed and verified in consultation with the budget director. In addition to the library gaining operational benefits, this change also creates an opportunity of upward mobility for our part-time staff. Within the library, it creates a clear pathway for growth and advancement in non-professional positions. The request aligns with the county's strategic goals for organizational excellence by fostering workplace development and retention. And offering a full-time position with benefits would enhance staff retention at the library, strengthen our departmental operations, and support the library's ongoing commitment to providing dependable and high-quality public service.
Well, you checked all the blocks, huh?
Consent.
Pleasure of the board. We'll go ahead and add this to the consent agenda for approval. Thank you, ma'am. And discuss a request to apply for and accept Libraries Transforming Communities Accessible Small and Rural Communities Grant. You're up again, ma'am.
Yes. So as you may recall, the library has been awarded the Libraries Transforming Communities grant for 4 of our branch locations this year: Anger, Coates, Dunn, and Benhaven. Those projects are currently underway, and now we are respectfully requesting permission to apply for the 4th round of this grant for our Irwin Public Library. If awarded, this funding would be used to make the front entrance doorways ADA compliant by installing handicap accessible automated entry buttons, improving both accessibility and equitable access for all patrons. We are applying for $20,000 and it is non-matching, so there would be no cost to the county. The projects are part of our strategic plan goals and were identified under our Strategic Direction 2 in evolving library spaces. The town has also provided a letter of support for this project. Thank you, and I can answer any question.
Comments?
It's on the agenda, Commissioner.
Go ahead and add this to the consent agenda as well. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Discuss a request for permission to apply for and accept, if awarded, a Library Strengthening Connections grant in the amount of $25,800. Miss Joanna Cox, good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. The Harnett County Public Library has the opportunity to apply for the NCDIT Library Strengthening Connections Grant. This would be an expansion on the library's current successful Chromebook lending program. So this grant would fund an additional 75 Chromebook kits throughout the libraries. Those would include wireless mice, carrying cases, and also the Google Enterprise licenses that we require to manage the Chromebooks. It would also fund equipment to enhance the virtual conferencing space that is available to the public at our main library. And this project supports the library's strategic plan goals to build capacity for digital literacy in Harnett County. This $25,800 grant does not require a match, so the library is requesting permission from the board to apply for and accept these funds if they are awarded, and to authorize the county manager to sign the grant application and the final agreements when received. Are there any questions?
Questions or comments? We'll go ahead and add this to consent agenda for approval next week.
I got a comment.
Go ahead, ma'am.
The best decision that the board made, for many years in this county, was to be on this building and that library. And I have to say, that y'all have done a great job.
Thank you.
For the public, they have a vision, and we all make that vision.
Thank you. We appreciate that. Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you much. Discuss a request to change the name of Human Resources and Legal Departments. Mr. Christopher Appel, good morning, sir.
Yes, good morning. Before discussing any change, did want to introduce our new risk manager for the county, Sarah Williford. She comes from North Carolina DHHS as a risk manager with years of experience living in the Dunn area. So happy to have her. If you recall, in the last budget, he decided to fund a full-time risk manager job in the legal department. Of course, Angel McLam has been the kind of part-time risk manager in human resources for a number of years, has done a great job, but we've grown to the point where we need a full-time risk manager and put it under my umbrella. And fortunately for everyone, she is not an attorney. We do not have another attorney in the legal department, so. But just want to introduce Sarah before we discuss the name change.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, welcome. So are you coming to us, or do we get to give you some things that we might like to see it be, or?
Happy to hear any suggestions.
I've got a couple names. We'll wait.
But I did want to start. So because it is now under my umbrella, asking for a name change for both of our departments. So it's now currently the Human Resources and Risk Management Department. So I'd like to drop that off of their part and just become the Human Resources Department, and then make mine the Legal and Risk Management Department. So just requesting make that change.
Questions or comments? No issues. Pleasure of the board to add it to the consent agenda. Question? Go ahead and add this to consent agenda as well. All right, discuss a request for the approval of a land lease agreement between the county and Harnett Air LLC. Mr. Christopher Appel, you're up again, sir.
Yes, this is another new land lease out at the Jetport. This would be another land lease that is next to the newest one hangar that was just built out there. And so this is a lease of 26,571 square foot parcel. The term is 20 years with 3 5-year renewal options. Lease amount is $7,439.88 annually, with a 25% increase at the end of the initial term. This is in line with the previous lease that we just did. Just accounts the rent is based on the square footage, but it's in line, same lease term as the other ones, and the lease agreement itself, again, is compliant and with all the other new leases we've done at the airport. So just be asking for approval of this new land lease to build another hangar out there.
Go ahead and add this to the consent agenda as well. All right, and you are up again to discuss historic preservation and heritage tourism.
Yep, few more here. So we've had a discussion about updating the historic preservation ordinance and our committee. And I know in having discussions, we wanted to focus on this tourist aspect of this as well. So that's why I've gone through our historic preservation ordinance and provided updates and changes. One of the main ones, again, being that it will now be called the Harnett County Historic Preservation and Heritage Tourism Commission. And the Heritage Commission Heritage Tourism chose that name because it's a branch of tourism centered around the exploration of and appreciation of places, artifacts, and activities that authentically represent the history and culture of a place. So I felt like that was probably an appropriate addition to the name of the commission and give them more of a focus. I'm not going to go through all the changes on this ordinance. A lot of it's just updating some terms. But like on page 5 under powers and duties, subsection B did add for them to give special consideration to be given to any proposed historic landmarks or historic districts which would promote historic tourism in the county. So again, adding that bit of focus on in addition to just the historic aspect of the building itself, is would it promote that heritage tourism. And again, down on E, you'll see any other conduct educational programs and any other program or activities that attract visitors who seek authentic experiences that allow them to engage with local history, events, and people. So again, just giving that kind of historical focus. Some of the other changes, again, won't go over all of them, but on page 6, you'll see a couple red lines on there. Since the original ordinance was adopted, 160D was adopted by the legislature, so just updating some terms to be compliant with 160D, and that's all those changes are. And then again, in regards to public hearing, the process you got to go through with advertising for public hearing, copy of any resolutions and so on being filed in appropriate places. So again, that's just a high level. If you have any questions about the changes, but again, I just want to point out that's just to give the name change and purpose. If you like the new focus on this in the ordinance, what would happen is we would call it for a public hearing. I have to advertise for it, so this is not, I'm not asking to put this on the next meeting for consent. I will have to advertise it for a public hearing. Then once the changes are adopted to this ordinance, the committee will have to adopt some changes I've made to their rules of procedure to be compliant with this new ordinance. And then again, I think we got to fill an empty seat, and then have a discussion about next steps of what their purpose would be and focus from here on out. So, but back, happy to answer any questions regarding the changes to the ordinance itself.
Any questions or comments for staff?
Kind of confused.
Yes, ma'am.
I see the changes that you're making in the article. Brilliant. But my question is if there are any concrete changes made, will the board have any say in it?
I'm sorry, the doors were closing. Are there any
Will the board have a say in any changes other than what you have listed?
So you as commissioners have the sole authority on this ordinance. Now, when it comes to the rules of procedure, which will adopt some of these same things, they have to approve rules of procedure changes. They'll have to agree to the changes I propose and then bring it back to you all for final approval. So they will get a say on this. Of course, with the current board members who, unfortunately, this committee has not been meeting on a regular basis.
You have answered my question.
Yeah, okay. Sorry. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions or comments? Pleasure of the board.
He just needs to, he's not asking us to.
No, if you are okay with the changes, I'll go ahead and plan for advertisement. I've got advertised for a couple weeks, and I'll put it on another regular voting meeting that you'll see an upcoming meeting. So if you're just okay with that.
Consensus of the board is to go ahead and allow that. Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Right, and you are up again to discuss a request to approve a resolution to direct the expenditure of opioid funds.
Yeah, so at our last large task force meeting, the group voted to approve 3 funding requests that I've included in this one resolution. First one is naloxone distribution under Strategy 7 of the memorandum agreement we have with the state. This would allocate $40,000 to the health department to purchase naloxone for distribution to individuals or groups. And also this would include the schools, giving the schools their Narcan in the schools themselves and school buses. So you previously, in our previous resolution, gave $20,000 of settlement dollars to the health department for 1 year. They've gone through all that, so we wanted to increase, go up to $40,000 for 2 years to allow some more flexibility to purchase naloxone. So that's the first funding strategy. Second one on there is for the post-overdose response team. This is our community paramedics have put this proposal together. They want to put asking for $10,550 to put together kits, hygiene type kits for individuals they come into contact with. It's part of it is to give them some basic needs and also to gain trust with our community paramedics as they see these individuals out in the public. So asking for that funding for that one. And then the third strategy is only $1,000 to be given to Cape Fear Valley Health, and this is to provide some training for their pharmacists so that way they can issue medications for opioid use disorder. So it's a necessary training the pharmacists have to have in order to do some of this distribution. So those are 3 funding strategies that were approved and would ask approval of this resolution. Happy to answer any questions.
Questions?
I attend the meeting.
Yes, ma'am.
The person doesn't see, are you moving forward or moving backwards? And I would say this too. I never imagined when we got to the funds to start the opioid task force. I never imagined that we would move this program as far as you all have moved.
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to thank you. God does some great work.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, and appreciate your support and appreciate you coming to the meetings as well.
Because, my thing is, I wanted to see something done by drugs in this county and give people the help that's needed for them to move forward with their lives. So, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
You're a caller, I tell you. The last meeting I attended, I was blown away at what you all have done with the funds that we have, Hunter County have received.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Pleasure of the board.
Yeah.
Go ahead and add this consent agenda as well. Oh my goodness, you are up again. Discuss updating Board of Commissioners rules of procedure.
Last one, very quickly. So with your vote to change the meetings moving forward, we need to change the rules of procedure. So under Rule 6 on page 3, Rules of Procedure, have added the second Tuesday of each month at 9 a.m. and also updated to change a little further below saying that you meet in the Harnett County Resource Center and Library Building. We had never made the change when we moved from the county administration. We need to make this change because even though we call it a work session, because these will all be voting meetings, and we can just put it and advertise as such, it becomes in effect a regular meeting. So that way we don't have to advertise every work session as a voting meeting. We can just put it as a regular.
Outstanding. Questions or comments? Pleasure of the board.
No consent agenda.
Good man. Go ahead and add this consent agenda as well for next week. You are done. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chris.
Discuss 26 Board of Commissioners meeting dates. Miss Melissa Capps.
All right. Good morning, Commissioners. As discussed by Chris, with the following schedule reflects the updates that you guys had voted on, and that will be the first Monday of each month, the second Tuesday of the month, and the third Monday, which is at 6 p.m. And all meetings will be voting meetings effective December the 1st, 2025. Just a couple of things to note. The board meeting, the Monday evening board meeting in January is a holiday, so according to the rules of procedure, we'll meet the next business day, which would be that Tuesday. We scheduled tentatively a planning work session or our planning retreat for Tuesday, January the 27th. And then the legislative luncheon, we are proposing tentatively to schedule that for Tuesday, February the 10th at 11:45. And the only other conflict was Tuesday, September the 8th, because that Monday is a holiday. And if it's the pleasure of the board, we will ask that you consider this for adoption at our next meeting.
Okay.
Just one question. I didn't know if you wanted to look at being April 6th being Monday after Easter. I didn't know if everybody's good with that or not.
Is it possible to move that one to a Tuesday?
We can.
Just so, I mean, I know that a lot of people go out of town, travels and stuff for the holiday, and I agree with Commissioner Jaggers on that one, that might not be suitable to have it Monday just following.
I can do
Yes, the
that.
Friday off?
Yes.
County have this Friday.
Yes.
So are you proposing to move this Monday meeting to Tuesday?
Okay.
Just a minute, stay there. Are you going to give the county employees that day and Monday off? Or are you just going to leave everything as it is?
Well, that Monday would still be a typical work day for the county. We're just going ahead and not having a meeting, just in case public or even some staff members, but if they are out there.
But it doesn't matter. Reasons all we do. Doesn't matter.
So we don't have to be here the day after Easter.
I just
can
was
make
bringing
that
it up. I
change.
just didn't know if everybody was good with it. I'm fine either way. It doesn't matter to me. But I just was going to, because it is the Monday after.
I would recommend that change. Be
Okay.
fine with it. It's the pleasure of the board also to go ahead and just bump that another day to a Tuesday.
Doesn't matter because my opinion on that, Lord.
I can do
Let's go
that.
ahead and make that change if you would, please.
Absolutely.
Okay, pleasure of the board with that change to approve the rest of the schedule. All right, so we'll go ahead and put this on, I guess, the consent agenda for next week, if you would go ahead and make that change.
I sure will.
Right, outstanding. This time we will review applications to serve on boards and committees.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Matthews not here today, and technically Mr. Dunn lives in District 3. He's there temporarily while he's building his house in District 2, and he's originally from District 2. So I'd make a recommendation that we go ahead and put him on the Board of Equalization and Review. He's a government contractor who's also in the real estate business and would have a good working knowledge of valuation.
Anybody have any objection to that? Nope. And we'll go ahead and add him for approval next week, ma'am.
I'd like to also make a move to Matthew Tucker continue his position on as an alternate. I think he's an alternate. Yeah, alternate on the Harnett County Planning Board.
If there's no opposition, we can go ahead and add him as well. We'll go ahead and add him as well for approval. Okay. All right, moving on. County Manager Report, Mr. Trout.
Thank you, Chairman. Just 2 items today to remind the board of. Tomorrow at 8 a.m. we will have our first Harnett County Economic Development Update meeting at Campbell University. We have a number of speakers. That's from 8 to 10. Also, this Friday at 3 p.m. you've been invited to the retirement get-together for Paul Polensky. So just a reminder, that's Friday at 3 p.m. That's all I have, Chairman.
Thank you much. And I understand we have a need for a closed session.
Yes, sir. I would make a motion that we go into closed session for the following purposes. Number one, to discuss North Carolina Industrial Commission IC number 240278894. You're gay. You're gay. It's YERGEAU versus the County of Harnett. And number two, consultation with and instructions to the county staff concerning proposed contract for the acquisition of real property. This motion is made pursuant to General Statute 143-318-11A 5 and 3.
Second.
A motion and a second for closed session. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. We'll move into closed session. Well, we'll go ahead and do this. After motion in closed session, reconvene, call the meeting back to order.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion and a second to adjourn, we are adjourned.